Is it better? Yeah. Hello everyone. I'm Sakit Vishal and this is my colleague Gaurav Kohli. We are consultants from ZBF. We are hardcore Java professionals. A lot of guys hate us because we are the best. Today we are going to talk about Drools. So let's see what it is. Yeah. Any ideas what this number suggests? Mathematical thing? Right, that's the guy, see? Any ideas about this? My address. Your address? Yeah. Okay. It's actually an address. Let's talk about the name. Any ideas about it? Yeah? Don't go about programming things. In layman terms, in general, when you see this kind of thing, what do you feel what it is? It's a name, right? So let's talk about names. These are some of the rules which are related with names. The last example we saw, it was first name plus last name. And there are many other rules which can be associated with names. There is an exception, it's the last one, which I have kept it over there. That's my name. It's a double first name kind of thing. But there are a lot of exceptions like this in India. So, how you can implement these rules in Java? I said we won't talk about programming languages, but this is generally case an example of programming language. How you can do this kind of implementation in a programming language when you need to identify whether a sequence of words is a name or not. So you have already seen the rules, and now you can write something like this in any programming language. So don't take this as a Java syntax, take it as a syntax for any programming language. Take it as an algorithm. Yeah? My friend here will show us a demo of running application. We won't see what is behind it.
Font size, please.
Font size? Is it better? Can you increase it a bit more? Figure out what's happening now. And that is unnamed. There are many other informations, but we will be talking about that later. Gaurav, can you take over now?
As you can see that our rule engine says that this is a personal name with the first part as the first name and the last part as the last name, right? So this is very trivial rule which says if you have a first name followed by last name, it would be a personal name. So first of all, we will start with what are the problems with implementing rules in Java. So if you have a rule engine implemented in Java and there are very frequent changes, you will have to change the Java class and then you have to rebuild the var and deploy it, right? And then you have to have you don't have a same place where you have all the rules. They would be in your Java Pojo classes or your business rules. They will be separated out into different files. You cannot maintain them very properly. in a well way. And the third part, if you have some business people who want to write rules, it would be very difficult for them to write. They don't understand the Java syntax, and they will be very reluctant to implement them, to write them. And the last part is performance. If you use some rule engine, you will not be able to implement any if-else better than the rule engine. At max, you can use switch or if-else to implement a number of rules. So now we introduce Drools. So Drools is a open source rule engine. It was started around 3 to 4 years back, and they.
Could you explain in more detail what the rule engine is? I mean, I have an abstract idea of it from AI classes.
Might be a rule engine. What's the rule engine, right? So if you have some rules, and you have a set of facts, and you want to verify that these are true or not. So you build a rule engine in which you specify that this is my condition which needs to be satisfied, right? And then the user enters some data, and the rule engine will just verify whether these set of rules are verified or not.
How it is different than validation?
Yeah, it's not different. It's just a simple rule engine. It's the way it is implemented.
Can you give me some practical examples where I will use this rule engine stuff?
Yeah, sure. So let's take an example of loan approval, right? So if some person comes for some loan, he has to provide some information. He has to provide his address, his salary, his whatever information he has to provide. Then what the rule engine will do, it will pass all that information to the rule engine, and that engine will decide whether this person can be given that loan or not. Right, and let's take another example of income tax, right? So you have different slabs. These slabs change every year, and sometimes they change between years also. I'm not sure about that. But if you specify those slabs in the Java file, you will need to change them every time, right? And if you have some that in some other place, in a place where you can manage it properly, you don't need to change the slab, you just have to change the information. The start of the slab and the end of the slab. That's it.
Something like that should be done in your conference file.
Yeah, you can do that, but business people will not be able to do that. If you have some business people who don't understand XML even, what will you do that?
So are you externalizing the rules or are you externalizing the data?
We externalize the format in which we specify the rules. So we have different format in which we can specify the rules. Those are kept external from the main Java file, your application. Right. So as I was telling about the rules, so they have many different formats in which we can specify the rules. We will see about them in a minute. So this is the simplest of the rules which we can define in the rules. So we just say when, condition, then and end. It's a simple if-else. It's not more than that. The only benefit is that whatever comes inside the condition is a simple English language. You can specify if I have a first name, I have a last name, and first name is followed by last name, then it's a personal name. Or you can say if my income is more than 10 lakhs and something like that. We can say that.
Can you give an example of a slide with something?
Yeah, sure. We have some demos that will be followed in some time. Yeah.
Is it visible or should I increase the font?
So as you can see, this is not very comfortable for the business people. So right now we will start with the developers. We can write the rules and then we will move on to DSL, which is domain specific language. So this is a simple rule which says if you have a first name and you have a last name, then insert it's a personal name. So you will pass the information and the rule engine will use its algorithm to solve the puzzle and then come out with the results. So this is the So this is the entire description of the rule engine. So you have the HTML files which specify the format, specify the rules. Then you have a rule base which contain all the rules. You can define them in different formats. When the system is started, it will read all the rule base and put them into memory. And then from the application you will pass on the fact, and those facts will be asserted for the rules. And finally we will have the results.
So it's basically defining the process logic separate.
Right.
So that we can change it whenever we need it.
Yeah, so that's in the layman term. If we go into the implementation, it implements a RITI algorithm. That's I would say that mostly all the rule engines use the RITI algorithm to do the parsing and do the pattern matching. Right. So that is the backbone of the rules. So the benefit of RITI algorithm is that if you do if else, then you cannot share the conditions, right? So if you have 3 rules which have the same condition, then what RITI will do, it will load all the condition in memory, and when you pass the information, it will execute the condition only once. Right. I will tell about that in details in the end. Yeah. So about DSL, my friend will tell about it.
Right. So basically we planned to show this whole presentation using an example. I set up all the examples with names. So this is one of the examples you all were questioning. Another good example is if you see insurance premiums. So in insurance premiums, they are premiums depending upon age. And usually the person who changes these premium rates and all are not technical guys. They are like business analysts and all. And they are not aware of programming language or any kind of configuration file. They are used to Excel sheets and all. So Drools allows rule input format into Excel sheet as well, where they can just go and update the Excel sheet and the rules will take effect automatically. So that is one of the examples. Another good example is domain-specific languages. Now every domain, whether it's health industry or IT industry, they have their own keywords and terms which are usually not understandable by normal people. Domain-specific language stands for that kind of keywords and terms. It's specific to the domain. Or in simple terms, it's the human readable language or the human readable rules here. I just gave an example of business analyst. How can they write the rules? Now, Drools allows using DSL. And can you show a DSL file? So it's the same rule which will be written in a domain-specific language. Now you can simply read and understand what this rule is doing. If there is a first name and there is a last name and the first name is before last name, then it's a name. Now a business analyst can easily change it, right? It's simple English. This is how it is actually done. Behind there is a mapping. It's a kind of properties file in which we have the actual technical implementation on the right hand side, and on the left hand side will be the domain specific language. Ultimately, it gets converted to the rule engine which Drools will understand. Maybe you can show the view, the final converted view which was possible in Eclipse. Okay. So we had to change the system and we cannot show you that. And rules and not in any kind of config file or any other programming language. First of all, it's not performant. Either if there are a lot of rules, imagine there are thousands of rules. Would you be writing 1,000 if-else condition in any language? Pardon?
About the RITI algorithm. So, it's a type of a trie. So trie is the best data structure for pattern matching and all. So RITIs also use the same trie and follow the same design. So what happens is, if you have some rules, you have 10 or 20 rules, and each of the rules use some common transitions, right? So what RITI will do, it will take out all the common transitions and form the nodes. And when you start the engine and you pass on the facts, it will try to assert one rule, one transition only once, and add attribute to it. So if three facts satisfies one transition, it will attach an attribute. And when all the transitions of a rule are satisfied, it will reach the end and it will trigger the rule. So in this way, it's very much performant than the normal if-else, because in if-else, if you have nested if-else, you have to maintain them, you have to keep a note of all the transitions so that you don't write same transition many times, but RITI will take care of that on its own. We will move on to why not to use tools. So as I was telling about it will save all the nodes in the memory. So it uses a lot of memory. So if you don't have high-end machines, don't use rules. Stick with the if-else. Like 5 or 10, and you are directing. It will waste a lot of time for you. And you define them one and use them for 10 years, then don't use. So main benefit of rules is it's maintainable. You will change it anytime. It's performant. Main engine, the RITI, some different formats to define the rules. And now we move on to the advanced rules. So these are the different modules in the rules using which we can define the rules. So one is rules flow. So like we have the example of loan approval. So in the loan approval, we can have different steps, right? So first step is the initial approval phase, wherein it will be some qualification would be there. Then it will move on to the next step. So we can define that using the rules flow. Event-based system. So it triggers the rule based on some event, right? So if you want to implement some fraud detection, you can use that, right, to build an entire business management system. So we are not going into much details of the advanced rules.